Welcome back to my channel. One of the things I always seek to do is to find new ways of looking at things, because sometimes by doing so, you get new insights, some of which might even be useful. It's also why I like to hear people present their own opinions, except when they seem to be more interested in attacking others rather than just present their own arguments. Today I want to talk about the subject of transactional relationships. A key element to me is exactly what makes a marriage not transactional. Consider this description I found. A transactional relationship is one that is based on reciprocity and needs. In a transactional relationship, both parties expect to receive something in return for their investment. These relationships are not based on the idea that you should give without expecting anything in return. I think that sounds good, but I also think it is too simplistic and in some ways just wrong. After all, a loving wife may happily cook for her husband. She probably isn't thinking about what her husband will do in return, but I'm pretty sure that if she kept doing this and other tasks, that she would expect her husband to be showing his love in return and not just in the bedroom. The more I think about it, the more I think that every marriage is transactional in key ways. And maybe the only real difference, at least if there's real love involved, is more about whether the transaction is laid out with specifics versus those where the things may not even be talked about, but I think are assumed by the participating parties as reasonable expectations. Consider two people strongly attracted to each other, not just physically, but emotionally, with respect, etc. This is a classic in-love situation where they both seem in sync with each other. To them, the idea of something like a prenuptial agreement may be a revolting idea. We love each other and care about what is best for each other, they say. But after marriage, over varying periods of time, maybe the wife doesn't want to have sex nearly as often as the husband, not even close. I've known men who find themselves cut down to monthly at best, with less than an enthusiastic partner at that. Did the husband not expect to have a willing, cooperative partner? Or maybe he realizes that it is natural for sexual relations to decrease over time, but wouldn't he still have thought he'd have sexual relations fairly regularly with enthusiasm? Similarly, what of the wife who may naturally understand that her husband, sometime after the honeymoon period, may want to meet with his friends for a poker night once a week? But over time, he's going out most nights. Or when he gets home, he just turns on the TV instead of talking to his wife about her day and what the kids have been up to. Didn't she have different but reasonable expectations? She worked all day too, even if she is a housewife, and expects some sharing of companionship at the very least. Sure, the husband may want to come home and just totally relax and unwind first. I know of women who understand that when the man first gets home, he may not want to talk, and she's fine with it, knowing that after an hour or so, they have together time. But I'm not referring to the man who essentially tunes out the entire evening. Both partners may, at least initially, happily do things just because it makes their partner happy. A traditional housewife may not really enjoy cleaning the house, but she may be happy doing it because it makes things nicer for her husband. I have a clip from one of my favorite old TV shows, Babylon 5, that addresses how doing something unpleasant may actually bring joy when done for someone you care about.
You know, before I got married, Emily used to come by sometimes and help me clean out my apartment. Well, I asked her, "How come you're so eager to help clean up my place when your place is just as bad?" She said, "Because cleaning up your place helps me to forget what a mess I've made of mine. And when I sweep my floor, all I've done is sweep my floor. But when I help you clean up your place, I am helping you." Of course, the way I lived back then, sometimes the mess was too much for both of us, but it sure was nice to have the company.
Another example may be a husband who may not care to go to an art museum or watch a romantic movie on TV, but he does it because it makes his wife happy to share the experience. And in that context, he actually enjoys it too. Well, enjoys the act of sharing something, even if he doesn't like the movie. There is no contract, not even a verbal one, covering these specific things. They fell in love and got married, but each still expected things from their partner, didn't they? So, to me, there is still a transaction, just an unspoken one without any specifics, and no one is keeping track of a detailed quid pro quo, unless it becomes obviously very one-sided. Then we have the more obvious transactional relations. Classic ones would be when royalty married other royalty, perhaps to cement an alliance. There may be no love involved at all. Or a situation that has filled most of history and still occurs some places. Marriages determined by parents who want to see their offspring and the family in general get the best deal that they can. And that may just be about prestige. Hopefully the two young people learn to love each other, but there is no guarantee. If not, maybe they can at least provide each other companionship, but that isn't guaranteed either. Other families may be more flexible, letting their child choose who they wish, but with limits where they may veto what seems to be a very poor choice. What about prenuptial agreements? Does that make it a transactional marriage? Or is it just a good way to decide, under friendly terms, what should happen if the marriage does dissolve? Ideally, the welfare of all parties should be considered. But if things are decided only when a divorce proceeding begins, when the parties may not be getting along all at all, then the fight over assets is less likely to be two people trying to be fair, but instead the two people trying to get even with the spouse they now dislike. I'm not sure how far I'll go with this topic, but there are many other things to consider. A key one would be whether there can actually be real love in these marriages between an older, economically secure man and a much younger woman with less life experience or things in common. There are a lot of these between older Westerners and young Filipinas. Certainly the Filipina, often poor, gets some economic security. And while most just feel the man gets a young, naive Filipina, of more importance may be having someone to care for them in their final years. Maybe I'll dig into that another time. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.